Hi,
being a good woman leader.
Joining us. So we've got everyone starting to trickle in. Welcome to our International Women's Day webinar, talking to superstars of e-commerce. So my name is Beck Galter. I'm moderating this discussion today. I'm from the National Retail Association. If you're not familiar with us, the National Retail Association, we represent retailers across the nation, all the way from mum and dad shops to the top end of town and everything in between. And today I am so delighted to be joined by this amazing panel, two of which have just been selected as the top 50 people in e-commerce this week. So congratulations. Okay, so to start off, I'll introduce Julie. Julie is the CEO and founder of Flora Fauna, which is Australia's largest eco and vegan store, and it's a platform for purpose being driven by purpose and values. Julie founded Flora Fauna 6 years ago with a clear vision to be the most responsible retailer possible with the best customer service. Hi, Julie. Nice to see you.
Hello. Lovely to be here, and thanks for having me.
Okay, and then introducing Sandradee. Oh my God, how do I pronounce your surname?
Makejev. It's Estonian.
Oh, it's a good one. So Sandradee is the founder and CEO of St. Frock, which started as a market stall in Bondi, and then after the Sydney dust storm of 2009 turned into an online store that has now taken the world by storm. So through your amazing use of social media and innovation, you've built up this amazing business, and now you're one of the top 50 people in e-commerce. So well done, you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. And I love sharing my story on how to inspire women to start their own businesses, remain self-funded, create an inclusive, happy, amazing environment that just celebrates humans.
Amazing. Oh, that's part of the reason we're here. And then introducing Aparna Gray from dotdigital. Now, dotdigital actually partnered with the National Retail Association to help get this event together. Aparna has more than 20 years experience in marketing, public relations and communications, and has had roles across Australia, the United Kingdom, China, the Silicon Valley. Name a place, I think you've been there. So you specialise in a lot of high-tech and online solutions for retail industries, and you're the head of marketing for the entire Australia and Pacific region. So, Aparna, do you want to say a little bit about dotdigital and why we're here?
Oh, thank you so much, Beck. I'm Aparna Gray, head of marketing for APAC for dotdigital. So just really quickly, dotdigital is an omni-channel marketing automation platform that essentially enables customer engagement across all touch points, also through lots of different channels. So these channels could be email, social, push notifications, SMS, and live chat. And all this is to ensure that, our merchants, are able to kind of acquire and convert and kind of retain those customers as well through the fantastic data, the customer data that we provide merchants, as well as the powerful insights that are available at our platform that our platform provides. I'm based in the Melbourne office. We have other APAC offices as well in Sydney and Singapore. We are very lucky to have both these fantastic women as clients with St. Frock and Flora Fauna, and also the fact that they are on this awesome panel celebrating female leadership this International Women's Day. So thank you, NRA, for this opportunity to co-sponsor this really special webinar. And we're really proud to be doing this with you. As I know, both dotdigital and the NRA, choose to kind of seek out and also celebrate women's achievements. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's jump into it. So I think one of the first questions that I have for this really successful team of female leaders is about work-life balance. So, the 24/7 nature of e-commerce means that when you're a small business owner starting out, you can sort of struggle to leave work mode. So how do you do it? And, what has changed from the start of your business till now? And I think maybe Sandradee can kick us off.
Oh, I thought Julie was going to go first, but it's a beast running your own business. I'm 11 years in now, and when I thought a lot about the question as well and what that meant, and I feel like we are told everybody's looking for the magic recipe for work-life balance, which I think doesn't really exist for anybody. Like, and there's like obviously recommendations that people make, but people are always on this endless search. So for me, when I first started out, I worked for the first 3 years straight and didn't take a day off except for like public holidays. I did 5 markets on the weekend and used to try and stay awake for 3 days every week to upload products, which, you know, I might not recommend for some people, but for me at the time, I knew I was onto something and it's what I wanted to do. And that was my choice as well. So definitely, I wouldn't say that it was like work-life balance, but in this, when I was like in it, I was just loving it. And the most important thing was I was passionate about it. So, and as time went on and I was able to hire staff and build a team, I was able to like step back and work more manageable hours, but still like, you know, the high 60s, 70s. But like when I look at like last year, I had to work a lot more hours during COVID. But I think for me, like work-life balance, when you're at the beginning or you're in the middle part of your business or you're having children, it really has to suit you. Like it really has to be your work-life balance. And what does that mean for you? Because at different times in your life, you may want to work more, you may want to work less, you may want to have a family or like, you know, spend more time with family and friends, or you might have someone that's sick as well. So work-life balance is really what you want it to be. And I think that that's the main message, but there's no magic bullet to it. You've really got to look inside yourself and figure out what's best for you and how does it make you feel? And like, are you inspired? Are you loving it? And if you're not loving it, be brave enough to challenge it and change it.
Amazing. And Julie, you know, what are your thoughts on that? Is it much different or?
I have zero balance. I'll just put this out there. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I don't know when I last took a holiday. And I think this is the reality of it. You know, we started Flora Fauna six years ago. And it was actually, for us, it was, in some ways, it was a bit easier at the start. And I think maybe because it's just smaller. And then as we grow, it's got, and we've reached a decent size in 6 years, without funding or anything like that. So it's definitely, I like to say I have flexible working as opposed to any form of balance, because I don't have any form of balance. The reality is we work 7 days a week. That's what we do. But we have flexible working. So I've had 2 children in the last 2 years, just to kind of add to my plate. And a lot of the day is often spent with them. And so you're doing work in between the day, but then at 8:00 at night, suddenly I've got about 6 hours ahead of me. So I like to say I have flexible working, but I just think that running your own business is not for the faint-hearted at all. And I know plenty of people who've started and they just don't have the gas in the tank to keep going, because it takes a lot of gas in the tank and it takes an enormous amount of resilience. And I think that shouldn't be underestimated whatsoever. So yeah, I don't really have balance, but I have flexibility. And you have to be, and I'm okay with that. For me, I think from what Sandradee said, you know, for me, that works and I'm fine with it, but that's not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, I'll touch on the flexible working arrangements. I think, you know, there's a very key point that Julie made there. Look, I think in general, the flexible working arrangements have become more common and acceptable because of COVID. And let's be honest, we've really done that for a whole year. A lot of us have really done it for a whole year. And it did work for a lot of people, you know, both men and women, you know, personally, you know, to be able, you know, the ability to save on commuting hours, to be able to kind of take those evening calls with the UK, but still be able to make it to dinner and be home for your kids when they come back from school. And for me, you know, it's definitely helped me kind of with my work-life balance and the working mom guilt. That there's a thing. Working mom guilt is a thing, you know, of me missing out on school activities and the meetings, and, you know, not being home with the kids when they came home from school. And, you know, that working from home has definitely helped me balance that. And as a company at dotdigital, you know, we worked from home for the last year. And in fact, you know, Sydney only went back to the office last week, and Melbourne's going back next week. But for the last year, what the point I'm trying to make, it in fact, it was really business as usual at dotdigital, and I think as a team, we've come closer and started to work better. So I think, those flexible working arrangements can definitely be positive for the company and especially for women, so because maybe there are mums out there who've had to put their careers on hold so they can have kids and, take care of them and didn't feel like they could do it all. This will maybe give them the confidence that, yes, it is possible and acceptable to have those flexible working hours, and give the companies like dotdigital have the confidence like, yeah, no, absolutely, this does work, and we're able to do business as usual, and we can become, companies in general can become more inclusive.
Yeah, it's definitely changed the way that we work, and the confidence that we have to, raise our voice and ask the question, can I work from home? And I think that's a really good segue we've got here, talking about flexibility and the elephant in the room, of course, COVID. How has that affected your business over the past year? Was there anything, I know there was full of surprises, but was there anything that came out of it that surprised you in particular? And, what was it like supporting your employees through that?
I'll go. I think Sandradee and I have different kind of journeys on this one. Look, when COVID first hit, which was, as we all remember, it's basically a year ago. So for us, it went crazy on the 13th of March. And what are we now? We're on the 10th, I think, aren't we? So we're about to start annualizing this craziness. So be interesting to see what the P&L looks like in a few months. What happened to us, because we sell a lot of personal care, we sell a lot of home products and beauty and things like that, our sales skyrocketed in the early, that March, April time. And we were faced with that, and we were also faced with, hang on, we need to keep our team safe, and we need to kind of work out what the government's telling us, because we're not really sure, because what's an essential business? Who knows? And we had to try and figure out all of this in a really short space of time. So what we did within the space of a week was we completely changed our business model to operate to 2 shifts. So we have, in our warehouse, we used to operate from kind of 8 till 4. And we went, well, that's no good because everyone's going to be way too close together. So we started operating 7 till 2:45 and 3 till 10, which meant we could space everyone out. That worked really, really well for us. It meant we could have more output. And most importantly, we could keep people distanced and safe. And of course, we changed lots of things like no communal food and heaps of stuff that was going on. But we've stuck with those changes. So for us, it actually resulted in a better business model. So we've kept with those changes with no plan on changing them. And then for the office team, we were kind of always quite flexible anyway, mostly because I like to be flexible. So it sort of drives from me. And again, we've kept with that too. For us, it's about output, not seats, bums on seats.
Oh, yeah, really great pivoting there, the word of 2020. How did COVID treat you, Sandradee?
Well, it was really rough in the beginning. I definitely wasn't like Julie. I remember sitting here in the office thinking, am I going to have to move out of this office? Like we were 90% down in sales. We had to negotiate with everyone, including like a digital partner. Like I spent so many hours actually sitting in this boardroom on the phone, just talking to people, negotiating, getting holiday payments, all sorts of different holidays from fees, all sorts of different conversations. Plus we went through a really rough round of redundancies, and I've actually never lived through mass redundancies before. So I was an emotional mess that my HR was like, you have to pull it together. And I was just like, this is so hard for me. But literally the government rolled out JobKeeper that weekend. So then I was like literally ringing nearly everyone I'd made redundant and reversing their redundancies the following week. So it was like, and I was so grateful for JobKeeper because we wouldn't have survived. And I was able to, we brought back everyone on JobKeeper we possibly could, where we could give them meaningful work. And thank gosh for that. And then it gave us some time we literally had to shrink to the size of a pea immediately. And there was just like so much pressure. There was so much information coming out and everyone remembers like over the hours. So what we do is when big announcements would come, our sales would just evaporate to nothing. So it was constantly stressful when you knew there was going to be a big announcement that how it was going to affect us. And we were just mostly concerned on surviving, hands down to the leadership team for all the effort that they put in. We went to a very agile 24-hour by 24-hour mode and like really focused on everything that we could offer the customer, how we could best look after and support our staff, how we could remain relevant to the customer and literally just survive until things settled down. What I didn't anticipate, though, was when the customer it probably got used to COVID and work from home. And like we went to reduced days and all the head office staff went work from home by myself and 2 others because they live around the corner. So we still came into the office every day because didn't want to abandon the warehouse staff. I wanted to be here for them, and I literally live 3 blocks away. So it was important to me to be here to make sure those guys felt supported. But we were not ready for when the customer was willing to shop our category. And that was like a really big surprise for us, especially once winter kicked in. People will work from home and they just started buying knitwear, and we grew 100% last year. So over COVID, and that I wasn't ready for that because we'd gone from 52 to 32 staff, and then by Christmas time we'll back up and over to 70 staff. So that's been a lot of hiring, induction, supporting staff, trying to keep our company culture going and celebration, and also people's emotions around COVID and what that means, and the customers, and also the crazy growth of that as well. So we had like a really massive year that I think by January we're all feeling burnt out emotionally from COVID and just burnt out from growing so fast and having to deal with it. But yeah, there was a really, really amazing journey of like both great sadness and stress. Like there's few mornings there where I thought I was going to spew from the stress, and then also feeling so thrilled and excited and just like grateful that I survived it, and we lived for another year, and we're able to keep doing what we love. And that's the most important thing, that we keep getting to do what we love as a group of people, collaborating and growing. So yeah, that was my story.
It's amazing that there's 2, quite different stories there about thriving from the outset and not from the outset. And I mean, you're both absolutely right. It was extremely challenging, especially for the National Retail Association. I mean, sometimes we would be sending out 2 or 3 emails a day to our members saying, this is what's happening, this is where it's happening, this is what it means. So it's definitely
amazing that you guys kept sending out all that information as soon as everything updated and how it affected retailers. And I actually really appreciated that, because having to go to the news and then go to all the other different sites, what was relevant to during COVID, like I really appreciate that the NRA did that. Like that was amazing actually. So hands down to you guys. Like we knew we're making the right steps. So
yeah, well, thank you for that. All right, well, let's go on to, what have been some of the biggest struggles and triumphs as a woman in business? And I think we'll start with Julie on this one.
Ooh, okay. So I think some of my I think some of my triumphs are not necessarily down to being a woman in business. It's just being a person in business. I think some of the struggles, however, are down to being a woman in business, and that's the bit that is kind of interesting over the years. And I have a personality where I sort of just forge on through, so I don't really let too many things stop me. But I started my career back in the 90s when women in leadership positions was a bit of a novelty, to be honest. That's and you kind of had to fight really hard to get to a leadership position. And then there was a view that you had a certain personality when you got to that leadership position as a woman. And that's been probably not my biggest, it's not necessarily a struggle. It's been an observation I've had and something that I've gone, well, I'm not going to be like that. So I can remember that when I worked at a retailer in the UK, an amazing retailer who I really love. And anyway, we had women in senior positions, and one of them came up to me when I was a graduate and green and didn't know what on earth I was doing. And she said, Julie, to be a leader in this business, you have to rule with an iron fist. And I was like, okay. I was like, that is just not me. And I saw that quite a few times throughout my career. And in the last 10 years, I saw it too. Whereas there's this view that as a woman leading, you have to do so in a very, I wouldn't even say it's a man-like way, because I don't think it is, because most of the men I work with are not like that. It's kind of in a really cold and hard way. And I just don't think that that is the case. So I've absolutely not done that. And I've absolutely led in the way that is me. And I think that's probably been a bit of the, I suppose, something that I'm kind of proud of, that I've become a leader that I think we should have, as opposed to kind of what I was told. So there's been a bit of a struggle internally in terms of just going, okay, well, how do I want to lead in terms of being a leader? And then the other one, which I guess is a bit of a struggle, is just being overlooked. Whether that is on a very minute level, it's kind of that conscious, unconscious bias. And, I've been to meetings, and it's small really in terms of what struggles other women have around the globe. And I'm always really mindful of this. My struggles are not really struggles, but we do need to change. And I went to a meeting once where I was completely ignored for the entire meeting, despite being there was two of us there. There was a man and me, and I was just ignored, and I was a GM. So I'm like, to the point where I was like, seriously, should I say something? And I actually should have said something. And looking back on that now, I should have said something, but I didn't at the time. And then I rocked up to one meeting once where I was asked, I think I was greeted with, "Oh, great, she's here to bring the coffee." And it was said in jest, but the problem is, it completely undermined me for that meeting. And it's that kind of unconscious bias. I know that the person wasn't doing it to be really mean or hurtful or anything like that. They just said it because they kind of thought it's a joke, but it actually wasn't a great joke. And it really does undermine women in senior positions. So those are some of the things which I've had to contend with. And being overlooked for roles, that's probably one of the biggest. I remember when I was literally chasing after a role, and the reason, what I was told, I was absolutely more than qualified for it. What I was told was, "Oh, we just need someone really experienced in this." And I was like, "Okay, I know what you mean." And they didn't, I didn't want. I have absolutely nothing against men. I love men. Tom, who is my husband and works with us, is biggest supporter and just an amazing person. But I think that sometimes some things happen which are just, sometimes it can be a bit tricky being a woman in things, and you have to fight really hard.
Yeah, and it's evident even in the fact that, of the CEOs, only 11% of CEOs are women. That's a massive gap. And people are being overlooked who would rock that position. So it's definitely a struggle that women in leadership have to contend with. Sandradee, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was just thinking about what Julia was saying, like all kind of different things over the years. And there's a couple of parts to it. But I just remember always growing up with like all the gender roles of what we could and couldn't do, and all the where I grew up in the country, I didn't even know what marketing or PR or e-commerce didn't even exist then, but they're just like really traditional jobs and roles. And I just knew I wasn't about that. So I grew up with like parents that, they still live on a farm. When I made my first 3 million, they're like, "Wow, that's like 10 farms." Like, like I love them for that. Like I don't really tell them all the stressful stuff now. I think they would just die. But just growing up with like all those gender roles pushed on you, and then also working in PR and marketing, and it's like, okay, PR marketing is feminine, like it's kind of a female kind of thing to do. And then working with like difficult men as well. And I thought, I'm just going to go out and, because like when I tinkered around and was like sold some stuff, like put some shitty photos on Facebook one night and wake up next day with $350 worth of orders from my market stall stuff. And I was like, oh, maybe I can make money. And then I just created my own world. Like, what would that world want to be if I was a female leader? And what does that mean? And like, I know for the first 5 years, like I worked like a crazy person and trying to build teams and taking teams on all these journeys and taking them overseas and investing in the teams. And that was like an amazing experience. But I think probably over that time, probably one of the biggest struggles was to get over myself, to like survive myself and continually challenge my thinking as well. And also fear in success as well, because we talk a lot about fear of failure when you're like trying to put yourself out there and challenge the societal norm and challenge yourself. And the thing is, the first thing to overcome is obviously fear of failure, just to try it and go and put yourself out there. But what happens when it's successful? It's like the fear of success, because it's like a whole other level. And I met Julie actually for the first time when I went to a talk and one of the panelists didn't turn up. And Paul Greenberg just grabbed my arm and dragged me on stage after he realized the other panelist wasn't coming. And then I sat down beside Julie and I looked at her and I went, "Hi, I'm Sandradee from Frock." She goes, and I'm like, my heart's racing like a racehorse. And she's like, "You'll be fine." That's how.
And she was amazing, by the way. She was amazing because she is what she is. She wears her heart on her sleeve and she just says it as it is. It's brilliant.
And that's a hard thing, like to continually be yourself, put yourself out there. And the first thing to overcome is like fear of failure and judgment and stuff. And we know how judgy society can be, not only by men as well and people, but also other women as well. Like, we've all experienced it. We've all seen it. So I always just try to be a great example of inviting and celebrating success in not only my own life, but also other people's lives. But the first thing, the other people's lives, because that is a great journey to be on. But first, your big thing is, how do I get over the feeling of failure? And then with failure and putting yourself out there. But when it's successful, how do you cope with that as well? So that's been a big learning for me over the years, which I've really loved and hated at the same time. Even to talk today, I was like really nervous. I was like, I hope that what I say is going to be impactful. It's going to be inspiring. It's going to make people want to be the leaders of tomorrow. And, how can they challenge themselves and challenge that status quo? So, lots of challenges over the year. And I've made the worst mistakes, like the worst. I've hired the wrong people. I've set up systems that didn't work. I moved my warehousing to Melbourne, which was the dumbest idea ever. And I went back. It was the first year I lost growth. I lost 20% of my growth moving it to this 3PL in Melbourne, and it almost broke my company, and I had to bring it back within 6 months and rebuild it from scratch. And I still have an injured knee from where I tripped over a box running around because I was so stressed that weekend. I've made lots of mistakes, but I'm really happy to own them, and I did them myself and I take responsibility for them, and I'm really proud of them, because in all those things that all those mistakes I made, I learned so much for it. And I think that that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And Aparna, same question. I mean, you have been a woman in business all around the globe. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, I suppose the biggest struggle was a certain time of my life. And I think it was when I first became a mum. I did find it hard when my boys were really little, and try to kind of keep up with work and still be that good mom. And I say that in quotes because it's what I thought constituted being a good mom was then at that point of my life, So because, we know, and Julie's got kids as well, and Becky's got kids as well. So it's no easy task keeping another human alive and thriving. It's really complicated and can have so many, unforeseen circumstances that can come up. And as a first time and a new mom, I don't think at first I completely understood the intricacies of what a working mom would be. And it was really, it's hard to prepare for life with a baby. And then you add work pressure on top of that. That was like, the double whammy there for me. So yes, it was really tough. And fortunately, the business that I used to work for in London wasn't fully prepared to kind of enable a first-time working mother. And you really provide that flexibility that I needed, that I didn't know I needed, but I definitely needed that job. So I quit my job in 3 months, something I have never done before or since, because it wasn't right for me. And at that point in my life, and it was fine. And I guess that's the message. There's no mold that you and I as women should fit into. If it's not right, it doesn't feel like you don't feel like you must do it. You shouldn't have to fit in a mold. And the flexibility for that particular job wasn't there. So, I couldn't commit. So that was, I would suppose, like the biggest struggle. But my biggest triumph is also related to that. I suppose the greatest triumph is, me being a mom, and I was able to find that balance and be able to have a career and find the right organization that was ready to give me the flexibility and work with me as I juggled life, being a mom, managing a team, and everything else in between. So, yeah.
Well, I think that's amazing that we've got like 3 different definitions there of all the struggles and triumphs that we've faced as women in business. So thank you for your insights on that. Mm-hmm. And now, coming from talking about those struggles and triumphs, what are 3 characteristics about yourself that you think led to your success in business? And we'll start with Sandradee on this one.
I was trying to think of 3 because I always have like a nice sneaky list, but I narrowed it down to, when I was thinking like definitely resilience, like to be in the game for such a long time through, like we launched after the, what was the last one? I can't remember. What was the last thing that happened 10 years ago? It was the global... GFC.
Jeez,
I knew it was like, started with a G. Literally, everyone was mad for starting business after the GFC. And I was just like, actually, I'm doing really well. But yeah, definitely resilience, empathy, and being solution focused. And I think you really have to love what you do. Like, and that's so important. Like, whatever you do, you've got to really love and enjoy it, because there'll be times when you want to give up. There'll be times where it's really, really, really crushing and hard. And, it's going to take every ounce of your being to like turn up, and you'll need the resilience for that and be passionate about it. And empathy, because a lot of your business could be doing well and you're succeeding and stuff, but you're also scaling people. So you need to be able to really understand and listen to them and figure out what drives them as individuals. Like, I get it wrong. We do have people that come and go from St. Frock, and but empathy is at the kind of heart of like our company culture, which is also celebration and love of everyone's uniqueness, but like listening to them and figuring out what drives them. And my favorite one is being solution focused, because my pet peeve is people that catastrophize stuff, because every day, whether it's good or bad, is another day in business. So I've come to accept running my business for such a long time, and all the different things that I've seen is anything could happen. Like, a problem could happen, a system could break, someone could resign, someone could get sick, or like as in like quite ill, or like all different things. Anything could happen, and we never catastrophize it. It's just a problem that needs to be solved, and we need to sit down and just collaborate, discuss it. And I just love being solution focused.
I think those are 3 very great characteristics. And what do you think about yourself, Julie?
So first one for me, we have a common one, but the first one for me is driven. I think I am horribly driven to often at the expense of everything else. So, and I think that's really, really important. You've got to have some drive in you. You've got to know where you're going, and you've got to be super focused on getting there. So drive, definitely a big one. Resilience is the other one, which Sandradee's mentioned for all the same reasons. The amount of stuff that we get thrown at us daily from every which angle, and you have to be resilient, but you've also got to be, again, Sandradee's point, you've got to be kind of calm, because you are leading a team, and it's easy to kind of go into panic mode, and you just can't. You've got to you have to be very, very resilient, very, very calm, and come up with a plan. You know, when COVID hit, we just went, okay, I'm someone who almost loves a good disaster, because I'm like, oh, disaster recovery plan, let's go. I know I work really well under stress. And if I'm not stressed, I'm a bit whatever, but but you have to be calm and you have to be measured and resilient, very important. And then the last one is positive. I am a glass half full person, a glass brimming person, and you can't be positive sort of, just in a, what's the word I'm looking for, in a ridiculous fashion. You know, you've got to be positive in a sensible way, but you do need to be positive about things, because you've got to infuse positivity into your team, and you've got to be able to, and things will happen that can knock you for six, and you've got to really be able to come out of it the other side. Plus, you've also got to be able to be innovative and come up with ideas, and you can only do that if you're positive.
100% agree. Yes, positivity can be hard to maintain, especially during a global pandemic, but it's
definitely, yeah.
And Aparna, what are your three characteristics?
Yeah, it's amazing. We've got some very similar characteristics that we've all chosen, which doesn't surprise me. But the ones I have, I'm quite tenacious. I don't really give up easy. If there's a goal, I'll kind of keep striving towards that goal. I'm quite resilient in that way as well. And if it's too hard, I will try even harder to get to the goal. I'm also a realist. I tend not to get caught up in the drama, and I think that's what Julie, mentioned as well. You just kind of have to kind of stick with it and stick to your goal. Make use of the opportunities that are, bestowed upon you, and not really get too carried away with emotion. I think it was Sandradee who mentioned, stuff happens. Don't worry about the ifs and the buts. Just kind of get the job done. I'm a doer, I suppose, a pragmatist. And I've also been told I have a lot of energy, and believe me, you need it when you're a working mom, juggling a job and kids and house, and you don't have any family around. Both Mark and I, my husband and I, are immigrants to Australia. We don't have any extended family around, so it's us basically juggling, all the balls ourselves. So yeah, energy is up there on the characteristics that you need to be successful.
Yeah. I have a little phrase I have lots of these, which I'll share with you. And well, it's kind of like a little scenario. Anyway, whatever. So when I look at things, because it's easy to get dragged into the negative, when I look at doing things, so I'm a big skier. I love my skiing. And when you ski through trees, if you look at the trees, you're going to hit the trees, right? 100%, and it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare skiing through trees anyway. But if you look at the trees, you're going to hit the trees. Whereas if you look at the white snow in the middle, you look at the good stuff, then you sail on through. And I think that's really, really important in what we do. We need to start, if you focus on the negative stuff and you focus on the things that are wrong,
it'd go wrong.
It'll go wrong, and you'll get dragged into that. Whereas if you can focus on, even if it's a small little seed of hope or something, if you can focus on that and focus on the sort of white stuff in the middle of the trees, then it's a lot easier for you to sail on through and to keep going and to actually get to your destination.
That's beautiful. Love that.
Love it.
I was telling that to one of my team one day, because it's true, but it is really true for skiing as well. If you ski through trees, do not look at the trees. It will end badly.
Okay. I'll make a note of that one. Look, I'm going to skip a couple of questions ahead, because I like this really meaty question here. As female leaders, how do you go about mentoring and setting up the future female founders and entrepreneurs and leaders of tomorrow? So what do you do to help support those leaders? Julie, let's start with you.
Oh, well, I think here we are. Here's one thing that we're doing right now. I think what's really, really important is using your voice. There's a whole heap of stuff, because you can do things within your company, which we do. We have we have lots of people who work with us. I mean, we're majority female. It's kind of the nature of the business we're in. And it's about really coaching and mentoring those people through. So as a great example, one of our team left recently, and I said to her, right, wherever you're going, I'm always here for you to help mentor or coach you whenever you need it. So just reach out. And I think it's really important that we make ourselves available as much as we can, because we've also got lots of other things to do as well. Well, yeah, forget that. But make yourselves available as much as you can, because also they don't need to be like necessarily structured sessions so much, but it could be just a quick phone call. So I do quite a bit of that. I do a little bit more sort of just general mentoring for people externally, and really just get myself involved with my peers in industry groups, which is really for males and females, all genders, right? But those are a few things, and I hope that also, I suppose, doing what we do and putting ourselves out there, we are hopefully inspiring for other people who may not necessarily talk to us on a one-on-one basis, but who look at us and go, great, that's the kind of leader that I would like to be, or I can take some nuggets from them. So I'm very transparent. I don't hold back on much. I'm really open, and which hopefully reaches as many people as it can. And I share lots of stuff on LinkedIn. So I'm hoping that kind of all of these things are how I inspire the next generation of leaders.
That's fantastic. Our CEO, Dominique Lamb, she often says you can't be what you can't see. So making yourself visible and putting yourself out there is extremely important. Sandradee, so what have you been doing to set up the future leaders?
Well, I think I'm challenging the status quo by being a female-funded, a self-funded company, like 11 years in, and I will still continue to be that, I think, probably the next at least 5 to 10 years, depending. And I just wanted to, and as I said before, I actually really struggled to get my voice out there. In the last 3 years, I've worked really hard to be on panels, be visible, share stories and just inspire the next generation. And what I do inside my own company is 2 years ago, I've kind of my leadership tapped out. I was kind of like a bit like, oh, what's the next level? Like, how can I learn more? Like, how can I be a better leader? And I was really struggling because I had quite a lot of staff, and I was just having a hard time trying to lead, manage it all. And that's where I got myself a leadership coach. And that just a transformation coach that just changed my world. And it meant I just had someone I could talk to about whatever it was that I was like dealing or trying to problem solve, like how I should be. And she works with some lots of other male CEOs and founders as well, and females. So it was really great because speaking to her, I get a perspective of what's happening, what other leaders are trying to problem solve as well. And it made me feel way more normal, actually. And then it also gave me the tools to be able to lead better. And then after COVID, as we're coming out of COVID and we were rocketing off, I could see the pressure that our female leadership team was under. And I extended all of those sessions out to the team because I want those women to be phenomenal leaders. And, she could be working with them about how to have difficult conversations, confidence, how to lead their teams, how to collaborate better. I'm part of those conversations as well. And it's just been so amazing. And it's just opened up the whole world of our leadership team to be better communicators and better leaders. And I think that that's important, what I'm doing, because that will inspire people listening to me sharing my story, but also everyone that comes into the business is going to be impacted from that, and their children and their children's children. So I kind of feel like it's my small contribution into having better leaders of tomorrow, because I think it's so important that women get the mentoring that they need. And it's not nice sessions either. It's not like, oh, you guys are doing great, it's all fluffy and wonderful. It's brutal, honest truths, and a lot of challenging your thinking. And I'm just so proud of the girls. They duck to water. They are so wonderful at wanting to improve themselves. And I can just see in the last 6 months, just what a massive journey that those guys have come on. And it makes me really proud because all the girls that they're managing and they're working on the leadership with the girls too, it just makes me super proud.
I think that's actually a really great perspective. I mean, a lot of the time when you're working a role, you often forget to keep professionally developing yourself and keep training and getting knowledge in new areas. So the fact that you have helped your team out that way by giving them access to this leadership coaching is just phenomenal. So that's amazing. Aparna.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
What's going on at dotdigital?
Yeah, like, and I was going to take that a little bit of a different perspective. Being absolutely, being involved in things like Girls in Tech, which is GIT, or I think there's another one, Females in IT, FIT. There's the Shopify Women's Network. Being there, available, speaking at those types of events is really, really key. Being yourself heard, but also, being in those other industry events, which are not just female focused, is also very key. And I see a lot of companies becoming and organizations becoming more inclusive, where they are including more diversity within the panels, etc. But the perspective I wanted to take was, I'm in a very different position. I know I'm in a position of privilege in a way, because, I'm an Indian woman, who's had the opportunity to kind of leave India, study in America, and basically become like a working leader in my industry. I'm really, really lucky to have this opportunity, and also very lucky to have that family to back me up, to have that successful career, and become a woman in a leadership position today. But this is, I'm unusual, this is not the case for many, many women and girls in India, where sometimes even basic education is not seen as a necessity, if you were born as a girl. And just being born a girl is sometimes seen as a burden on the family, which is really sad. I look at my position here in Australia, really from their perspective. I try to understand what those girls who are disadvantaged in India, how they look at me and all the women, in this position, on this panel, and, what might they say? I hope that they see hope. I hope that they think that if she can do it, so can I. So I suppose I can only lead by example. So, a couple of years ago, I was asked to write a piece in my high school's alumni school newsletter or something in India. And this is exactly what I kind of wrote about. And, the response was amazing. I had so many inquiries and requests and questions from these girls, and, how I was able to achieve what I had, and, how can they, be able to do the same essentially, So I suppose in this little way, I feel like I've kind of helped those girls to become future, women leaders. So yeah, that's my kind of personal anecdote there.
It's amazing. And you know what, thank you for also raising that, diversity and inclusivity is so important, not just for International Women's Day, but making sure that everyone is represented, whether they be LGBT or, different races. It's just so important to have representation. And so we're running a bit short on time if we're going to get through to questions. So why don't we ask one more question and then open up the floor? So if any of our attendees would like to go to the question and answer box and start writing their questions in, that would be fantastic. So this year, the International Women's Day theme is, as you know, choose to challenge. Tell us how you have challenged the status quo to become a leader. And we'll start with Sandradee.
I think that I choose to challenge it by doing what I'm doing, like being a self-funded female founder, and all the things that I talked about today, like investing and mentoring female leaders. And I really believe in that. I feel like females can change the world. And I will continue to do that till the day I die. And I will continue, I've joined so many advisory boards over the last year that are industry related, just so I can continue to use my voice to bring more female retailers into the space and know that they've got people behind them backing them up.
Oh, I think that's fantastic, Sandradee. And Julie?
Okay, so I think there's two things, because I can never have one. I choose to challenge. So I grew up in the north of England in a working class family, and we didn't really have much growing up. And pretty much everyone who I grew up with is still there, and they're doing what they do. And I've always been very driven, coming back to my things. And I really choose to challenge that at an early age in terms of, no, this isn't for me. I'm not going to kind of go down the and it definitely wasn't an expected path, because my parents are the most amazing people in the world, and they have just supported me through whatever I wanted to do. They couldn't necessarily define that for me because they didn't know what that was, but they've absolutely supported me through whatever I wanted to do. And I've really challenged the norm in terms of how I grew up. And I was born in the 70s, so very much in an era of women kind of don't have big jobs. So I've challenged that piece and gone, well, I'm going to go and have a big job, and I'm going to do something cool, and I'm going to go and move to Australia and all of that stuff. So I've definitely challenged that in terms of what women can achieve. And then I've also challenged what a leader looks like in terms of being a little bit more open and transparent, and showing that I was always told you should have a face of a leader, and, you know, don't show your personal self.
The iron fist.
The iron fist, exactly. It's kind of like just how you lead it at work is different to what you're like, and that's just not for me. So I think I've definitely challenged that in terms of what you see is what you get. Obviously, you're seeing a lot of wine right now. That's what you see. I don't know how to put the background on, so that's what you're getting. But it's. I think it's really important that we're far more real as leaders, and far more approachable and attainable, and all of that sort of stuff. And I think those are the two things that I've challenged.
Amazing. And Aparna?
So I'll go a little bit of a different tact again. I choose to challenge the parents. Actually, I choose to challenge parents all over the world. So I'll give you a little bit of my anecdote first. So I think I've mentioned I have two boys. I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old. And it's so important for me to raise them understanding what gender equality means. And I think that truly begins at home. You know, the examples that we can set at home by, you know, parents or caregivers or extended family, your family friends are really shaping the way they will think about gender and equality. So whether it's kind of like breaking down gender stereotypes at a really early stage. You know, why is there only a fireman Sam? Why is there not a firewoman Samantha? You know, teaching them about women's rights and, you know, the struggle women have had to get to where we are now. You know, I think that's really important as well. And also teaching by example. So, you know, I can categorically say I wouldn't be here without the support of two men in my life. So firstly, my husband, who is a caregiver in equal capacity to me, 50-50, even split. And our boys see that every day. You know, it is a shared responsibility. And two, the male is my father, who encouraged me to leave home, go to America, become independent, get a career, stand on your own 2 feet before you get married. Those were his exact words to me. You know, it's advice that he gave me. But that advice is what my boys see the product of me, you know, of me in me every day, of being there as the mum, but also being a female leader and being able to juggle it all. So I choose to challenge the parents. You know, I think they have a big role on how they will mold the next generation and how the next generation will focus on these really critical issues.
Oh, that's amazing. So I think we've got Priyani in the chat who's just absolute. She says she absolutely agrees about educating boys, being a mum of 2 sons herself. So it's really important to continue that education piece. So we've got a couple of questions in the audience that we might zip through very quickly. The first one, I was wondering how you deal with burnout and if you have any advice on how not to feel overwhelmed. Does anyone want to respond to that one?
I can.
Yeah.
It's hard. Well, the thing is, you will feel it's so hard. You will feel overwhelmed, but sometimes, like, oh gosh, it's hard to say. Like, you know, yesterday I was feeling really overwhelmed and really anxious, but then and sometimes I might have to clear some out of my schedule. Like I'd sit down and look at my schedule and okay, I need to make some more room because I'm going at too hectic of a pace, or also, and you just got to listen to yourself. Meditation really helps. Like through COVID, I started doing meditation, which I know people were telling me about it for years, and I was just like, yeah, I'll do it. But I've managed to stick to 10 minutes of meditation for like a whole year. So I'm super proud of that. And that really helps with the anxiety. But I think my biggest thing when I think about it over the years was like actually getting out there and finding like-minded people, because maybe your group of friends might not understand if they have, so say you're a founder and they just have a normal job, or you have a corporate job and they don't. So it's important to go and find networks and hang out with people that are like-minded. Like I know at Top 50, when I went there last week and I spoke to everyone else, like where they were, what's happening, the problems they were facing there, like everyone had the same shit. And I was just like, thank God. And it does help you you feel like you're not alone. And that's the biggest thing, like, with, it's obviously fear of the future, but just getting out and talking to people that are like-minded, that really helps. Exercise, meditation, trying to listen to yourself, clearing your schedule a bit, and also being grateful too, like sitting down and really looking at the positives, the positives that you've got going on as well.
And I think the thing that I do is I really prioritize. Because I've got so much, like at the moment, it's incredible. We've got vacant, I need to recruit people, but I haven't got time to recruit because I'm doing stuff and it's just like, so if anyone wants a job. And there's just a lot going on. So there's a few things that I do. I absolutely have to prioritize, and you just have to accept that sometimes you just can't get everything done. And that's life. You've got to be a bit ruthless with your time, and you can't do everything. You will. I think the more you do things, the more you're going to get asked, and sometimes you just can't do everything. So you also have to say no to things. And I think to the points that Sandradee mentioned, the one thing I do, which I do every day, is I go on a walk/run, and I'm trying to run, but some of it is walking. And I take my phone with me, and sometimes I do calls on the phone because, to be honest, I have to, because I'm really struggling with time. But it is important to have some time for yourself. But it is tough. And I think even Tom and I, my husband and I, because he works in the business, so we're just all in all the time. And the other week, what did we do? We went and did something for we just went out for lunch. And it's the first time we've been out for lunch in a year. And he was kind of going, we haven't got time for this, we haven't got time. And I said, I think we just need to go and do it. And it was just amazing. It honestly felt like we're new people when we came back. And just doing things like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I was just going to say, my only point was going to be, you have to take the break. You know, stuff can wait. The world, it will not implode. Do you know what I mean? You have you have to recognize when you do that as well, when you actually need that break, and that's one of the things, with COVID, you can just keep working. You just keep working because, there are no holidays planned. You just keep working, from day to night, but you must take that break and recognize when you need that break.
Yeah. And I'll add to it, this is something that even I face. You have to be able to say no to some things. You don't have to do everything. Find the person who you're able to delegate to, because if you do everything, you're not going to have time for bigger picture or strategy. It's just not going to happen. All right, one more question, lightning fast, and then we'll wrap up. Do you have any advice for young women who want to start up a business? So this question asker doesn't have much experience and she's only starting out in university. So what would you say to that?
Okay. So my view on this is, which you may not want to hear, but get some experience. Go and work for someone part-time doing some stuff. It's the best thing. One of the best things that I've had from starting a business, it has been my experience. Now I have a lot of experience, but it has really helped me not make mistakes that I think I absolutely would have done had I not had any. One of the toughest things you're going to have to face, Sandradee may agree with this one, is cash flow finances, all of that kind of stuff. And sometimes you just need to kind of get a bit of experience somewhere else. So I would say, even if you just go and get some experience from work, depending on whatever it is you want to do, in whatever it is that you want to do, to kind of give yourself a bit of a feel. That would be my best advice. Sorry.
Anything else that we want to add on that, Sandradee or Aparna?
Well, my advice would be make sure you love it. Because if you love it, it's so much easier even when it's shitty and it's broken, it's not working, and there's like all like crazy different things going on. You're like, but I still love it. This is what I want to do. So that makes it way easier to start with. And it means like the sleepless nights, all the different things. And when it's rocketing off, you're just in it, and it's just awesome. But you could also start it as a side hustle as well. So it means like you can start doing it on the weekends, after hours, that type of thing, having your time to test it. And there will come a certain point where you want to cross over. Hands down to anyone that's going to go full force into starting their own business, just make sure you enjoy the journey, because it's going to be rough, and get out there and meet like-minded people, join networks and stuff, because you'll be able to bounce and learn off those guys, and they will like support you all the way. Like, I'm always messaging Julie, or like, I was messaging Shane Lenton, and I was like, hey, DDP, blah, blah, blah. Like, what's, all about this? Like, all the different friends I've made in the industry, I'm always sending them like random texts, all the stuff about very specific questions, but they know and expect that from me, and it's beautiful and I love it. And the e-com industry is one of the best industries that supports, loves, celebrates and cheers each other on, and I think that that's amazing. So come join Ecommerce.
Yes, I know.
Party with us.
100%. I was just going to say, ask for help. And what Sandradee has explained there, 100%. We are such a small e-commerce community. Everybody knows everybody. If you get in, you will be, and people will give you help. If you raise a hand, people will try to answer your questions as much as they can. So, yeah.
Yeah. And, you'll see all of these ladies at Retail Global on the Gold Coast at March at the end of the month. So sharing more insights and all of your wisdom about e-commerce. So if anyone is considering buying tickets to that one and hasn't, definitely get onto that, because we'll all be there. Thank you all so much for your time today. I know you've got very busy schedules, so we really appreciate you taking the time to speak about your experiences and, show that female leaders can achieve a lot. And, it's been simply wonderful. So thank you all.
Thank you for organising it all. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for letting me share the stories. And,
exactly.
Can't wait to catch up with all you guys in person. And if you ever see me out and about, then just grab me, add me on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Find me online.
Yeah. LinkedIn's a really good one. Connect with us on LinkedIn.
100%, yeah.
Amazing. All right, well, have a lovely afternoon, everyone, and happy International Women's Day.
Happy International
Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.